Hello, my name is Jesse Beltran, and I believe anybody with an online business should have the ability and the free access to the knowledge to be able to get to their first 10 to 15K a month. Because in reality, it is very simple to get to 10 to 15K a month. It is not easy. It's one of the most difficult paths that you will go over probably through your life. But it is one of the most satisfactory things that you will ever achieve. I remember my first time ever making $10,000 and everything changed for me. For the first time, like buying something didn't feel real. I was able to take my mom out for dinner and it was a really nice place and it didn't even faze me. And if I can help you with achieving that as well and experiencing the same things that I got to experience and hopefully negate some of the suffering that I went through, then why not? So that's what I'm going to do. A little bit of background on me. Started businesses when I was 13. Nothing crazy for sure. It sounds nice and fancy, but it's kind of glorified or romanticized. I was selling online products on Discord for games, things like that. And then when I turned 18, hit my first 20K a month with a marketing agency and did that in 3 months. Then a few months later, it was around the time I was turning 19, did my first 30K week. And this is where I realized, like, wow, this is actually possible. This isn't just all the gurus that you see online that are renting a Lamborghini and showing it off and selling a course. There's an actual system to this. And I want to walk you through that system step by step on how to get to your first 10 to 15K a month. But it's going to be the same fundamentals to be able to get to 30 to 50, to be completely transparent. Number one is going to be mindset. When it comes to mindset, a lot of people think it's about this alpha male, sigma, waking up at 5 a.m. and doing 18-hour work days. And it's like, okay, sure, that plays into it. You have to be able to work. You're going to go through pain, right? But they completely miss the part of mindset that actually applies to business. See, when it comes to business, sure, working hard is one factor. Being able to think like the version of you that is achieving those 10 to 15K months is a completely other different conversation. So how do we think like the identity of you? How do we acquire the identity of you who's able to achieve 10 to 15K months consistently? The base principle of it is obviously going to be, I know you're going to hate me for saying it, but yes, work ethic. Because if you're not able to put in the hours, if you're not able to acquire the skills to be able to provide value to a market and to be able to make that amount of money, then you will never get there. So first of all, before we get into even how to work hard, you have to understand that everything involving your mindset is based off of your identity. Your identity is based off of your paradigm. Your paradigm is the way that you perceive the world. It's the lens that you look through. It's the looking glass through the way that you see every action that you take, every arguments in the world, every political view, everything, right? So how do we achieve the paradigm of somebody who's making the amount of money that we want to make? The first thing that you have to understand is your paradigm around client acquisition and also your paradigm around money. So let's start with paradigm around money. First thing you have to understand is if you want to make money, money isn't made, money is extracted. Money is extracted from a market. The way that it's extracted is by providing value. The reason that providing value to a market is exchanged for money is because you're alleviating pain. And what actually happens is money will be traded for the alleviation of pain. The amount of money that you make is contingent with the amount of pain that you alleviate. So then it comes back to yourself. Instead of saying, how do I make money? You need to ask yourself, how do I acquire the skills to provide enough value and alleviate as much pain to be able to make money? That's the biggest paradigm shift that you need to have in the beginning. Because if you keep chasing outputs, you keep chasing money, then you will be lost on a path down the wrong road and probably spend a lot of money on some guy flexing a Lamborghini. As soon as you understand, okay, how do I acquire the skills? Now, instead of investing in that guy who's flaunting a Lamborghini, you invest in the guy who is showing you the real skills that are able to get you to your goals. So that's the paradigm around how do we make money. What is the paradigm around client acquisition? So when it comes to client acquisition, there's a lot of limiting beliefs, biases that you have to remove. There's a lot of emotional factors that you have to remove. If you really want to get into this extremely deep, I recommend looking into somebody called Carl Jung and Carl Rogers. These are kind of the grandfathers of psychoanalysis and being able to break down and reverse engineer your current identity and turn it into the desired identity. Start to notice I talk a lot about indirect topics because they apply to business extremely. So how do we achieve the paradigm of client acquisition? I'll go through a few things that are a lot of common limiting beliefs about client acquisition. Number one is people have no idea what the heck an offer is. Your offer is not your price. Your offer is not what you do. Your offer is not your risk reversal. Your offer is not your target audience. Your offer isn't any of this. Your offer is the way that you position your product slash service to a market. Now you might say, oh, those 5 things you just said aren't an offer is exactly what you just said. No, it's not at all. The way you construct an offer that actually works is by understanding how the offer affects the business first. Now, a lot of people don't even understand that. Your offer directly affects every single part of your business. Your offer directly affects your sales. Your offer directly affects how you do your marketing. Your offer directly affects your internal operations, your service delivery, quite literally everything, even down to the culture, you can argue. Now, how does it actually affect all those things? When it comes to your offer, the underlying factor to a great offer, an underlying factor to a differentiated offer compared to your competitors, is going to be understanding your clients better than they understand themselves. Now, this means understanding their traumas. This means understanding their pains. This means understanding their language. This means understanding the diction, the specific words that they use within their conversations internally. Now, once you understand this, they no longer see you as somebody trying to sell them something. They see you as somebody who is one of them. When you're able to create marketing and create acquisition systems for clients that make somebody feel different, something clicks. It's always just a little bit different. And you'll notice this with the big players in the game. The way they use their words, the way they position themselves, the way they articulate and have their body language is always very, very specific. You feel comfortable with them, feel inspired by them. And all of that is not a mistake. It's all done with precise and a science behind it, precise methods. So how do we actually create the offer? We need to look at is, okay, how do I learn this much about them? It helps if you actually worked in the industry, but now what you can do is perform a lot of interviews with them, understand their pains. And once you start tracking data with enough people, you start to uncover, wait a minute, they have a lot of pains. They have a lot of similar pains. They keep saying these words about these pains. Now I can use the same words that they used on these interviews in my marketing. Now my marketing is going to be more specific than everybody else out there. Now my marketing is differentiated. Now my marketing is something that nobody else has seen before. Now my marketing works. The idea is to get somebody on a call, especially if you're in the online business space, you do online sales calls. So that's the main idea. So that is your goal with the offer. Yes, the other parts that were not an offer, they are not an offer, but they have a vehicle inside the offer. They are part of the anatomy that builds your offer, and you still need them. They're still important, but you cannot create those parts of your offer before you understand who you're making the offer for. That is my point there. Okay, so that wraps it up about mindset. Actually, one more thing about mindset is going to be emotions, right, and biases. So I don't want to make this a 5-hour long video, so I'll try to wrap through this pretty quickly. But as far as emotions, you need to have absolute stoicism around your emotions. If you let things fluctuate your emotions, you will have irrationalities, because decisions based off of emotion, unfortunately, humans are prone to making decisions off of emotion, but decision off of emotion will never be logical. Now, how does that actually affect? What is an example of how this actually affects us in the business? If we have a system, let's say an email system, let's say we send 10 emails, right? And none of them work. If you get emotional, you start changing everything, you'll never know if it actually worked. And this is because of something called regression to the mean in test validity via quantity. Now, what is regression to the mean? If I flip a quarter twice and it lands on heads twice, doesn't mean it's a 100% chance that it's heads. Now, if I flip a quarter 100,000 times, now regression to the mean, regression to the average, it goes back to the average, it's going to be a lot closer to 50-50. How does this apply to quantity via test validity, and how does it apply to our emotions? When we send out 1,000 emails, actually specifically 500 emails, now we have enough quantity to know if regression to the mean kicked in, and we have valid test data. Now we know if the stimuli within our email actually worked or didn't work. But you'll never know unless you send 500 emails. If we get emotional before we send those 500 emails, we'll never know if it worked. Next thing is going to be biases. When it comes to biases, you can be biased to think, oh, my market is going to respond to emails really well, or my market is definitely going to want this product. How the hell do you know? You don't. You only know until you actually do it. You need to go out to the market first and create a product/service for the market, not the other way around. Never push a product/service on a market. Go to the market first and find out what they need and then alleviate that pain. If there's anything you take away from the video, literally write that down. Okay, so there's mindset. I already talked a little bit about offer, but the next step after mindset is going to be creating a good offer. So I'll dive a little bit deeper into how to create a good offer. We already talked about, okay, we have to understand the psychological conditions of our market, but what does that actually mean? So humans by nature have something called cognitive biases. Cognitive biases, so cognitive being the mind, biases being they're biased via irrationality, means that the brain will take mental shortcuts to find a solution. Because by nature, our brain does not have enough computing power to process all the information that's put in front of us to make a rational, logical decision. What we can do is understand that different niches have different sets of cognitive biases. And if you understand the specific cognitive biases of your niche, you can take advantage of them. Not in a Machiavellian way, but simply in a way to get them on a path to get them to their desired outcome, which is hopefully your product or service. Use this information wisely and safely and morally, please. So if you understand their shortcuts, right, then you're able to create marketing contents. You're able to create a product or service that targets those mental shortcuts. So what do I mean by that? One cognitive bias that we can play is the bandwagon effect, right? This is the most common one actually used. And we can see this in things like testimonials. When people see other people succeeding, they want to follow them. But I want to teach you not what. I want to show you why and how to think. Because it's not gonna help you a lot if I just tell you what it is. So why does that cognitive bias actually work? Now, if we look back to humans at their mammalian stage, so back when we were like just in cavemans and writing paint on the walls and stuff, we didn't have language. The brain is not adapted quickly enough to adapt to language. The brain was only adapted to be able to change and actually rewire itself based off of visual responses. So back to my point here, what is the bandwagon effect? Well, the bandwagon effect is seen when you start clapping in a room and everybody else starts clapping with you. You feel an innate, it's a heuristic, it's something built into you to want to follow along. The reason that we have that is because we would see, for example, let's say our tribe. You see our tribe running away from something. We're probably going to run with them because if we don't, we might die. We don't know why. We don't know what it is, but we feel that for survival, that it's necessary. We have not adapted fast enough to realize that this is possibly irrational, and that's why things like testimonials work so well. That also, there's another argument for, okay, yes, it increases perceived likelihood of achievement, but that's again another conversation. So once you understand the cognitive biases of your market, now that you understand how cognitive biases work, you can start creating marketing and stimuli that is better for them. Now, whenever you go to create any sort of marketing via whatever channel that you choose, then it is going to be based off of your offer, not based off of your assumption of your audience. That's really important. As far as the offer, you want to say a high-level overview of what you do, but you never want to say exactly what you do. Because as soon as you tell them exactly what you do, you've killed curiosity. Never tell them I'm going to run paid ads for you. Because now they're going to assume and group you into all the people that run paid ads for them in the past and assume that you're a scammer and assume that they understand your business inside and out, which is obviously irrational, but we have to play within their environment for the acquisition phase of the appointment. So instead of saying, we're going to run your ads for you, don't do that. Instead say, we guarantee you we'll get you 20 appointments or 20 clients in the next 60 days. And if we don't, we'll give you a full refund plus $1,000 for your time. That's the idea. When you're creating the offer, that is kind of the anatomy of it without getting too deep. Okay, so we covered mindset, we covered offer. Now we need appointments. The key to appointments is the first question you have to ask is, okay, well, you should have one niche. You have to ask, where does my niche aggregate? Now, for example, roofers are probably not on Instagram. A lot of roofers have a higher median age range, and they're probably on things like Facebook. So now you have to ask, okay, so how do I extract appointments from Facebook? Because that is where my target audience aggregates. So now we have to look at, okay, I have two options. I can either try to make my own appointment system and make my own DM outreach system and start blasting a ton of people with some stuff that I hope works, or you can invest in something that you already know that works. Here's the brutal truth. If you try to recreate the wheel, you are in for a lot of pain. You're competing with people who are targeting the exact same person as you, offering the exact same service, who know more than you and make more money than you, and that have a system that has been iterated over 10 years. How are you supposed to compete with them? Why the hell would somebody choose to book an appointment with you over them? They have a better system. So I hate to tell you, but you're at a point where you have two options. You either have to find somebody who's going to tell you how to do it for free, or you have to invest in it. Again, here's the key here, not investing in somebody's course that's promising you to get rich and promising, oh, do this business model will make you successful. You need to invest in something where somebody will work side by side with you, or have something that's structured in a way where you know you'll get success and enough attention. And on top of that, you have to partner with somebody who's going to show you how to think, how to run a business, rather than somebody who's just trying to sell you a business model. That is the key. Once you find somebody who can teach you the client acquisition systems, the outreach systems to actually get those appointments, then you're golden. So now we have a general idea of how to get appointments. What is the next step? Next step is going to be sales. Again, I don't want this to be a 5-hour long video. I quite literally have a lot more than 5 hours actually worth of videos on this, but I want to give you the most leverage for the time. So when it comes to sales, the biggest thing that you have to understand that sales is not convincing anybody anything. Sales is simply the transfer of conviction. Now, when it comes to the transfer of conviction, you have to ask yourself, okay, how do I build conviction? The biggest way to build conviction is to actually have confidence. So I know, crazy, right? How do we build confidence, and what even is confidence? So the way that you build confidence in anything is to actually see the results of what you've done. Now, if you are under the 10 to 15K range per month, you probably haven't done a lot of work or experience or have a lot of testimonials, so that confidence might not be there yet, which is totally fine, because we can have other sources of confidence to pull from. Number one, if you've ran your own service for yourself, that's one pool. But number two, there is a lot of overlap between your life outside of the call as well as on the call. So what does that mean? If you have confidence outside of the call, you will have confidence in the call. So how do you build confidence outside of the call? So there's this really crazy thing that builds confidence called the gym. So yes, of course, the gym, you work out, you get bigger muscles, you have a better self-image of yourself. That's pretty self-explanatory. I don't have to get into that. But something really interesting happens when you lift weights. So there's a part of the brain that actually gets larger when you do something that's painful, and you know that it's painful and you do it anyway. And the stronger that you make this part of your brain, the bigger that you make this part of the brain, the better you're able to endure pain. Now, the reason that enduring pain is so important because every single thing that you do in business, especially if you're under the 15K a month, is going to be painful because you don't have experience in it. When it comes to sales, if you understand that it's going to be a painful process and that you actually go towards that pain, then you are going to exceed exceptionally fast. The reason is because growth only happens in pain. Now, if we train the part of our brain that loves pain, that's able to get over pain and keep grinding through pain, now we're able to achieve the identity of somebody who's able to grow extremely quickly. Because again, growth only happens in pain. Now, how does this tie back into confidence? Well, again, after other than just getting big muscles and feeling awesome about yourself, you start to realize that anything painful you can get over. That completely creates an identity shift on your capabilities. That completely creates an identity shift over the way that you articulate. It creates an identity shift over your body language. You'll start to notice you embody the version of you who is extremely confident from the gym alone. Now, obviously, there's so many other sources of confidence that I could teach you on how to actually engineer confidence. But again, I don't want to make this 5 hours. Okay, so we have confidence on a sales call. We understand that sales is simply the transfer of conviction, but give me something better. What actually makes somebody buy? Two things that make somebody buy: pain and confidence. Pain that they're uncomfortable, they're in their current situation and they have a desired situation, and confidence that you can get them to their desired situation. If you have 0% pain but 100% confidence, there's no reason to work with you. If they have 100% pain but 0% confidence, why the hell would they trust you? Your goal in sale is to induce as much pain and induce as much confidence that they will get to their desired situation. You can also do the inverse of this, which is what a lot of people actually miss. The opposite of pain is comfort. How do we remove comfort? The opposite of confidence is doubt. How do we increase doubt? You can do the inverse of these on a sales call. The way that you do this is via discussioning and questioning. Now, language is a very interesting thing. Our brain has not adapted enough yet to realize the difference between what we say and what is reality. If you tell yourself you're ugly every day, eventually you'll start to embody the identity. If you start saying things like, I can't do this or this is hard, your brain will believe you and think that it's hard and you can't do it. Now, how does this relate back to what I just said? When we are engineering confidence, when you say things to yourself like, oh, I don't know how to do whatever, then you are telling your brain you don't know how to do it. So number one, that ruins your own confidence. But number two, when somebody's on a sales call and they start talking about their experiences and they start talking about their pains and they start talking about why they think that your product is good, they quite literally rewire your brain to believe you. On the pain side, how long is this you've been struggling with this issue for? Are you happy with the amount of appointments you're booking? Are you happy with the amount of money you're making every month? Obviously, you have to be careful with these and ask them, and not that bluntly, because somebody will be like, oh, this guy's just like a slammy sales guy. But there's a method to it. There's a system to it. Again, don't try to recreate the system. You have to invest in it. So now we understand that we can build confidence, we can build pain via indirect questioning. And that's where you'll notice we don't tell them that they're in pain. We don't tell them that they should be confident in us. The best sales reps always only ask questions as much as possible. If you're really curious about this, look into NLP and neurolinguistic programming, as well as understanding people like Sigmund Freud, Carl Jung, Edward Bernays is a big one, people like that. And the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, that's another really, really big one. Okay, so we have a basic understanding of mindset, offer, appointment booking, and sales. That alone can get you to 10K. But I want to go a little bit of step further to really just make sure you can go to 10K or maybe even a little bit past that. Now we have to look at the relationship between infrastructure and scale. Now, infrastructure and scale are very interesting, and they're actually partners. You fall into a loop of infrastructure and scale once you have the previous 4 steps down. What happens is when you try to scale a system, well, actually, you need to know what the heck scale is first. Now, a lot of people think, oh, scale is optimizing a system. Scale is this, scale is that. If I asked you, what is scale? What would you say? Scale, at its simplest terms, is simply more quantity. It is simply more volume. You're going to look at your appointment system and say, okay, how do I double the volume? How do I 10x the volume? What would be the result of that? Infrastructure is saying, how do I handle that many additional appointments? Can we even do the service delivery for that many additional people and clients? Because we have the sales system. How do we do that? And that is how infrastructure and scaling works. You simply go through this loop of adding more volume and then adding more infrastructure and repeating over and over and over again. And the farther you get along in your revenue journey, the more that the infrastructure and the scale changes into something unique. You start to get more revenue, you start to get more tools, you start to get more gasoline that you can put in different fires, and then see how your business grows that way. When you're at that point, that's where the game becomes fun. That's where the game no longer feels like you're suffering and you're in this crazy drive to try to survive. That's where it's simply growth and complete domination of whatever your market is. So that is I believe 6 steps. Hopefully I counted right. 7, 6, something like that. That's the 6 steps that you need to understand to be able to get to your goal. If I understood these steps a lot earlier, I would have achieved my goals a lot earlier. The way that I learned these steps is via over $50,000 worth of education, a lot of experience, and some incredible mentors, such as Eric Lofholm. He trained Tony Robbins sales teams forward, a whole bunch of other people. And shout out there's tons of other mentors that I've been brought up, just because sales is in my mind, Eric Lofholm. Tons of other mentors that help me understand all this stuff, and a lot of self-experience. And that's about it. So obviously, pain drives every single action. Pain is the reason I'm making this video. I have a pain of not having a personal brand. So, hey, that's why I'm Jesse Beltran now. That's why I'm starting this. And obviously there's a reason, there's something that I'm trying to escape, right? So this is what I do. I help people reach their goals. So if that's something you think that you might be interested in, you can reach out to me. I don't have a funnel or anything, just because I want this to be pretty genuine. I don't want this to be really salesy. I just want to help people. That's the main idea here before anything else. So that's all I have for you. If you got some value from this, subscribe or don't. It's up to you. If you didn't get value, definitely don't subscribe. That's all I have for you. Hope you have a wonderful day.